Hey everyone, today's June 11th. Looking around in the garden. I was just gone for about 2 days. Wasn't up here, and there's so many seedlings you can see mixed in with the grass seed I put down. The grass seed's only there because I didn't plan on putting a garden here at first. Then I just threw all my hundreds of extra seeds I didn't use in the main garden here to see what grows. In this area, we're not going to put anything like pesticides. If the slugs destroy it, oh well, this is just an experiment. I am watering it. This is set up to the sprinkler timer on the house. It comes on currently for an hour every night. I'm thinking about reducing that down to 30 minutes or 20 minutes. I don't think it needs it. Just wanted to do that, especially at the beginning, to get the peat moss moistened up and get everything growing. Yesterday I grabbed this from my mom's house in Massachusetts. She has tons of this cactus. I'm not sure what it's called. It flowers every summer and it just keeps expanding. It survives the winter. Every winter, all these little pieces here fall apart, and then in the spring they all reroot and start growing. I'm gonna see if it'll survive the northern New England winters, which are 2 climate zones away. Let's see if this thing does well. Just gonna plant it somewhere here. This is a fairly sunny area. I actually got this from under a tree. It actually survives in the shade. So I'm just gonna put it here somewhere, bury part of it in the ground, and we'll see how that does over the next year or so. There we go. I just buried the end of it down a couple of inches. That should survive. Even if it dies down to the ground, it should eventually reroot when it regains its strength. The sprinkler timer in this area will not be coming on tonight because tonight I don't want it to get really washed away. I want it to really absorb it. I'm going to walk around in here with a watering can and give it all a little bit of miracle grow. So from this part of the garden, we come over here to our well where we have some watering cans, and we'll mix some miracle grow. I bought some newer stuff this year, but I want to get rid of older stuff that came with this abandoned property. The older stuff looks like someone left it out in the rain, it looks like. Look at this box. See this? It looks like it was drenched for a while. And when I open it up, it doesn't look as blue as it's supposed to be. It looks a little lighter, like it got diluted. So I've been just putting 2 spoons in each watering can instead of just 1. And then we'll go around with that. It says on the package to do it once every 7 to 14 days for the plants to grow nice and healthy. Now that's just a fertilizer. This doesn't kill anything. So that will be beneficial. We're doing this to all the gardens. That's why the sprinkler timer's off, because I'm going around manually doing it. I'm not using the big sprayer this time. Like I said, that garden there are some slugs eating things, but I'm not putting any kind of insecticides there. But I am going to do it in my bigger garden. About 20 minutes ago, the red container called 7 insect killer went around. You just spray it on all the leaves of the plants. It dries in 10 to 20 minutes. It's safe for pets and people to return. But that's the only area I'm using that sort of chemical, because the slugs are eating all the leaves off the cucumber plants. And that'll also protect it from what is inevitable to show up, the tomato hornworm. The marigolds are a natural insecticide, which do help, but it will not stop certain things from showing up. So we put that out there, sprayed it. Within 10-20 minutes, it dries in the sun. Give it a little longer if it's shady out. Then it's waterproof. And that protects up to 3 months, and after 3 months, it's completely inactive. Yeah. So, especially when you have wells and well water, be very careful with what chemicals you put down. I use that stuff because it just sprays on the leaves. I don't drench it. I don't let it soak into the ground. Just lightly spray it onto the leaves. It hardens, and then it's completely inactive in the environment in about 3 months. Then, because I had a bunch of people complaining a few weeks back, and I only use this against the perimeter of the house. I was using Roundup spray because the vinegar I was using to try to kill weeds did not work. Vinegar worked pretty good around the garden, but we have some kind of tougher grass against the house, so I use that. But I did my research ahead of time. That stuff there does not affect groundwater. It binds with dirt. It won't go down deep into the ground, and that's completely inactive between 7 and 60 days. That's when it's completely broken down. Yep, did my research on that stuff. So here's what I do with this right here. because it looks a little diluted because it got wet. To me, it doesn't look as blue as it's supposed to be. I got a brand new box of Miracle Grow once we use this up. I have a lot of plants, so this box, I'm using the majority of it today. So see, we're putting 2 in there. And now because we don't have the hose that's going to be spraying in there, what I'm first going to do is take this watering can, put a little in there, and we're going to swish it. These wells here, if you haven't used them in a while, you got to prime it with some water. But this thing, I use it often enough, and it's been raining in there, so the diaphragm is good. The diaphragm swells to be able to get compression after a winter time. In the winter, you want this thing to be dry so it doesn't freeze and crack, so you got to prime it the first time if you're not using it. See, the water's a little bit yellow because this thing's been sitting for a while, and it does rust inside there. So see, just swishing it around like this before we fill it completely up. And I'll do the same with the other. The water coming out of this well is not as cold as my other manual well on the property, and definitely not as cold as my drilled well, because this thing, the pipe is going down no more than 8 feet, which is actually warmer than deep in the ground. Not terribly cold, but I still am going to let that sit out for a couple hours and warm up a little bit, so there's less shock with the plants. But once they're older, colder water from the hose or whatever won't matter nearly as much. And I also have another kind of fertilizer I'm going to use later in the year. I'll show you the package. We got one that's meant for tomatoes. You sprinkle it on the ground and rake it into the dirt. I can't rake it into the dirt because I got a plastic liner, so I'm thinking I might just sprinkle it on the surface. And that plastic liner for the weeds is actually porous. It lets water go through, so I'm hoping every time I water it at night, some of it goes through. And I also got some kind of Alaskan fish fertilizer. It says to put like a tablespoon per gallon of water, and these, I believe, are 2 gallons. We'll maybe do that next time. I wonder how much that's going to stink when we open it up. I just realized this stuff here is not the same stuff as the new one I bought that has a picture of a vegetable garden. It's for tomatoes and other crops. This one is a different kind of plant food made by Miracle Grow. From what I could see on the internet, and I'm not seeing anything on the box, what I could see from the internet was that it just won't work as good, but it doesn't really matter. So now that I'm seeing this, I'm still going to use this on the vegetable garden, what I already have mixed up in the watering cans, but I'm going to sprinkle the remainder of this around a bunch of flowering bushes I have. I do have a rhododendron, I have azaleas, and I also have lilac trees. I'll go put this around them. So here is something that came with the abandoned property I'm going to look into using right here. Bone meal for flowering plants and vegetables. So we're going to look into using that. What other things do I have? This came with the place. Up here, got a whole brand new thing, all-purpose plant food, full brand new. This came with the abandoned property. This came with the abandoned property too. And I just bought an exact one. What's this? This is something I probably will never use here, but I'll give it to someone who lives in the city so it doesn't go to waste. Or here's something else we can use all-purpose. It looks like a laundry container food. And there's another giant thing of 7 with a little sprayer. Wish I knew that was up here before I went and bought more. Now in the shed, I just bought this sprayer. Here's all the vinegar that we're using for killing stuff around the perimeter. This was on the discount shelf right here. It says harmless to plants and animals. It's natural. I believe I accidentally spilled this on myself, and I think there's a lot of pee or something mixed in there, and that's how that thing works naturally. I got this sprayer here, which comes full. Then you just keep buying that giant box I showed you before. This was on the discount shelf in Walmart last year, and by the instructions, this goes really far. Tablespoon per gallon. We'll put this in all the watering cans next time. And I also got this right here, which is by the instructions. It says you're supposed to rake it into the soil, and it slowly releases. Because I can't rake it into the soil with the liner on the top for weeds, I think I'm just going to sprinkle it, and every time the sprinkler comes on, it'll just water it into the ground. I think that'll work all right. As you can see, I love Walmart discount shelf deals. $10 from $36, $2 from $14. And maybe the tadpoles would like this. This was also discount shelf. This has got to go before the mice start eating it. But I haven't found a mouse in a while. They're usually only a problem right before winter. I have mouse traps set all over the shedding barn, and they have not got a single mouse in over a month. They don't even want the peanut butter. They only show up when it's cold. So I'm looking at this right now, and it says to use 1 tablespoon per square foot of plant canopy every 3 to 4 weeks and water thoroughly. Yeah, it looks like you don't even have to rake it in. That's only when there's seedlings. That's what it looks like to me. No, that's not true. But I'm just going to put on the surface, and I think we'll still get good results. I actually have a spreader like that, if you saw that in the barn when I was showing the things that came with the building. Got that on the discount shelf also. I buy most of my gardening stuff the year before, which is a smart thing to do. Anything you're going to need the following year, get it when it's like 90% off at Walmart. So this is right here is where I use the 7 chemical after finding a lot of slug damage. Went around, just sprayed it on all the leaves of the seedlings so they don't get destroyed even more. The most damage was right here to the cucumber plants. The corn did very well. It looks like only 2 of them did not come up. You see, I even dug them up to see. That one right there, you see how it's yellow? It was just having trouble poking through. But the corn is growing nice. Now this stuff looks like it's just for tomatoes, so I'm going to sprinkle it around, like just around on the humps for now, because their canopies aren't very big. And the sprinkler comes on an hour every day, but it will not be coming on today because I want them to get some time to absorb the Miracle Grow. As soon as the sun starts going down, I'll give them all a watering can watering. Oh my gosh, this stuff smells like a dead animal. Now I can see how it slowly releases. It reminds me of the garbage you buy to attract deer for hunters. I sometimes buy it on the discount shelf after hunting season to put in front of trail cameras. Yeah, it smells awful, but I'm gonna use my hand and I'll sprinkle it around in here, around every plant. I found it great to have this pot for washing your dirty hands off after gardening, and then this thing drips a little bit intentionally and it slowly cleans it. So you see, I put a little bit of it underneath every single plant, and that'll slowly get watered in. Probably put too much, but I don't think it matters. You see the double stem tomatoes? Probably next week I'll kill off the ones that look worse. That's because we accidentally planted 2 seeds in some of them because I didn't know how well they do. Some of them still look pretty bad, like they might still die and need replacements. Any of them that die will get a store-bought one. It's too late in the short growing season for that. It's also too short of a growing season, I think, to when you sucker a tomato plant, some people re-root the sucker into another plant. I don't think we have the growing season for that to be worthwhile. I don't even think the sucker would be able to produce. So that one right there looking bad. These 3 are looking good. Those 4 looking good. These 2 are accidental, I think, bell pepper plants right there. Yep. Alrighty then. I'll also put some of this stuff in the potted ones on the back steps of the house. You see how some of them are still not doing great. We had a whole week of rain and very cold weather I thought was really going to help. Some of them are still not looking good. It's why I still have this mesh up there where the sun comes from to block it. I'm still going to leave that up for a while before I take it down. Alright everyone, they were all just manually watered with the watering can and the Miracle Grow. Tomorrow night the sprinkler will resume.